Hi,
Hi.
we're just coming on to talk about marriage today, aren't we, Rory?
We're coming on to talk about marriage today.
Yeah, we're gonna make these like, you know, a regular thing because we like the subject.
Regular thing.
It's a subject that we love. It's a subject that God
It
has put
is.
on our hearts.
It is.
Well, because I like who I'm married to,
And
and
I am rather emphatic on my enjoyment of who I'm married to.
oh, honey, go on,
Oh,
really, go on. No. Um, So, yeah, so we hope everybody's doing well today. And this is for people who are married, but also if you're not married
and
you're,
I'm thinking about it.
yeah, Paul does say that it's better to remain single because you can focus on the Lord then, right? But he said,
I'm not sure how to take that comment.
but he says, if you burn with passion to get married, right? And so,
But he also says that he who has found a wife has found a good thing.
and did you find a good thing, honey?
I found the best of things.
Oh, honey, you're so good. Hi, Brittany.
Hey, is Brittany on there?
It's
Brittany! Hi, Brittany. Oh, wrong hand. I can't see it. Hi, Brittany. No, it just looks like I'm... Okay.
So anyways,
Double jointed.
we just wanted to come on and just start with this first video to
Wait a minute,
chat.
hold on. I want to make sure they can see me.
Yeah, they can see you, honey.
Is it two?
So,
Gotta make sure because I have a side that I...
okay, but,
Okay. There we are.
so we wanted to start just talking about things that we learned that God showed us in the beginning of our marriage. And I think you had a question for me, Rory.
Is that your segue? Okay.
That's my segue.
Awesome.
You did.
Smooth, delicious. Actually, yeah, you know what's funny? And I think it's important that as couples that we can ask ourselves the question I'm about to ask you, Dana.
Oh, that's interesting.
I think it's important that we ask ourselves that question too. And you're probably thinking, okay, well, what is the question? I'm so glad that you asked. The question is, what was for you, Dana? What was in your heart or in your mind? What was the first or the most significant stumbling block in your heart that you thought, well, this isn't as I pictured, or this isn't what I thought was going to be. What was a big stumbling block for you in the marriage?
Well, like when I was growing up, I loved to watch, like most girls do, little girls love to watch Cinderella and Snow White and, all the romance movies. There is the odd girl who aren't into the romance movies, but I know most of the people I know were into the romance movies. And so it was always that the girl was being saved, right? She was always the most important thing in the guy's life. There was nobody more important to him but her. He was there to save her with a kiss, or he was there to come riding on a steed. Like even I loved the Man from Snowy River. He would, bound on his horse to be the guy that saved the day. And so she fell in love with him for that, and that beautiful music, going in the background. It was just my dream to have this guy who would be the prince for me, who would come in and just be my white knight on the white horse or black horse. I don't know, whatever horse it was, as long as it wasn't blue or red, that'd be a little scary. It was to come in and save the day. Well,
did Craig have armor on?
No.
Oh.
But I had this expectation. I had this false expectation that Rory was going to come in and save all my problems, that he was going to be the one. It wasn't going to be about me having to do anything, because it was really, I probably figured I'd have to do some stuff. I looked forward to being a mom and to cooking, and not so much the cleaning, but I looked forward to, caring for him. But really the romance and just the, being the one to do the big stuff, it was going to be Rory. Rory was going to be my answer. And so hi, Sue.
Hi, Sue.
And so he was going to be my answer man. And so when things started to, and in fact, in the beginning of our relationship, He really was that. He was the one that came in, and I, came. Brittany and I, we both went to the same church growing up, and we like it was a mainstream, non-denominational church. And here I was on this missions trip with this charismatic group, Youth of Mission. And I had all these questions that I'd never experienced things with the Holy Spirit in this way before. And so Rory was a bit of a white knight for me. He was answering all these questions for me over email, and I would ask him, and he just knew everything was so biblically based. And I'm like, oh wow, he's like saving the day for me. So here it was. He was kind of fulfilling that role for me. So when we got married, and things started to go in the opposite direction where now I wasn't getting whatever I wanted. I wasn't getting my way. Hey, Nicole. And
hey, Nicole, honey, it's Nicole.
It is Nicole.
Hi, Nicole.
And so things weren't going that way. I wasn't getting whatever I wanted. I wasn't getting my own way anymore. And he would say no to me. Like, come on. He said no to me. I'm like, what's going on with that? And I started to temper tantrum and not like this because I wasn't getting my own way, and I wasn't getting that prince in the fairy tales being fulfilled anymore. And so it was frustrating for me. But what I realized as God started to show me years down the road was that, Dana, you're a selfish person. In fact, Sue, my sister-in-law, who is on here right now, and brother-in-law Mark said, you guys just need to grow up. The two of you need to grow up. And that was a moment that really made us start to think. It still took a few more years for us to really come out of our selfishness. Hey, Rachel.
And, Rachel, hey, honey, it's Rachel.
It's Rachel. And,
yeah, but it's funny because even when my sister said that to me, my initial reaction, I can't remember if you had it too. I was probably being more of the selfish one at the moment, but I thought, I'm not being selfish, am I? These are all reasonable things I'm thinking, aren't they? And it's, the truth is, who do we lie to more than we lie to ourselves sometimes, right? We can talk ourselves into some of the biggest sillinesses and viewpoints and stand, and so I thought, wait a minute, is that right? Like I had to process that through. Are my thoughts actually selfish thoughts? Because we just believe ourselves so wholeheartedly, right? And so even just in the fact that could possibly be said to me and have it be an accurate thought was in itself this tremendous, like, eureka moment for me.
Yeah, and it was for me too. And as I started to see my selfishness and to see that this wasn't supposed to be all about me. It wasn't just supposed to be Rory fulfilling all my childhood dreams of being that white knight, because only God can fulfill those places.
I couldn't have
Rory
done
does not have the ability to fulfill those places in my heart that were only God-shaped holes. Only God could fulfill those places for me. And I was putting him on too high of a pedestal to be able to fill those places for me. It was unfair to him.
And the truth is, like for any guys that may tune in to watch this at some point in time, that is something that we want to do, right? We want to be the guy that our fair lady could look at and go, wow, about, we want to be the dude that saves the day. We want to be considered that we bring all that to the table, and we want to be considered respect worthy, and we want to be given the credit because we want to be the person who deserves that credit. And actually the side effect from that is that then we have this crushing weight of responsibility that we can't possibly, as a created thing, it's like that old Atlas picture where there's this dude holding the world on his shoulders. We can't bear that burden because we were never meant to be Jesus Christ to our spouse. But we will try, and then comes the cycles of oh man, what kind of a guy am I? I'm failing at this, and oh man, well then we try harder, and then we fail, and then there's self-loathing can come in, and all this different cycle of stuff, the garbage that we can try and do, and we feel like a failure as a husband, and so then that can set us off into other areas that are like, it's just this ongoing thing, right? Circles of getting further and further and further away from what the Lord has wanted marriage to be to begin with.
Yeah, and so this is some of the stuff that I actually share in my book, Once Upon a Fairy Tale for Women, about what God taught me about marriage.
Hey, honey, I don't think they can see it, babe. Like, let's go right up and wait a minute, get the angle. No, I'm wrong. Sorry. There we are. Once Upon a Fairy Tale.
You can buy it on Amazon.com if you're in the States, or Amazon.ca in Canada with under Dana Force with Once Upon a Fairy Tale. Or if you're in North Bay or in the area, I'm selling them for $20.
Because you are still that resourceful of a person. You can do either one.
I try. But hey, if you ever have questions, anybody have questions about marriage, we would love to answer.
I've got a question, Dana.
Oh, do you? You have a question?
I have a question.
Oh, that's exciting. I hope I can answer it.
For you, because and this is something that we want to do in talking about this, is we want to be vulnerable and honest and upfront about this topic, because frankly, being a poser about something does not help anybody, least of all us. And so for you, what was a big eye-opener for you? Where it literally, like the first speed bump where you're like, hey, wait a minute, what's going on here? What was that for you with me? Share with these kind folk, where it was, where something seemed off in our reality.
Well, I think it came with where Rory has admitted to struggling with harshness. And it was an area that, just growing up with being, struggling with anger. And so it's something that God has done awesome things in Rory's life over the years where he's been growing him. But it was hard for me because, the harshness, I'm a softer person. I can struggle with it sometimes, but I am, we call it, Rory will even say, I'm the softer one of the two of us. And so I can struggle with that when somebody's like hardcore. I kind of shrink back from it. And so, but I'm also one that stands up and will say something when I don't like how I'm being treated. So which is okay, but I wasn't always doing it in the right way. And I was self-protecting in a way even when sometimes when I should have just been praying. And so, but I didn't leave room for Rory to grow. I wanted him to be perfect immediately. I didn't want to have to go through, I wanted our marriage. Hi, Mary.
Hey, honey, it's Mary.
It is Mary.
Hi, Mary.
And I wanted our marriage to be perfect from the beginning. I didn't want to have to go through marriage issues. I was like, what's going on? He's a godly guy. I've grown up in the church too, and I considered myself to be pretty godly. So why are we having to go through this? And this is where the selfishness comes back to. And this is one of the things that Rory and I have said from the beginning, is that since God had healed our marriage, and since God has been having us pour into people's lives in their marriage, is that one of the things we would love to see people have before they get married is to go through inner healing counseling, where they're dealing with issues ahead of time. Because I bring in a culture from my family, and he brings in a culture from his family, and you're coming in with two totally separate cultures, trying to mesh it into one culture. And if you've got inner healing issues, things that hurt you as a child, things that hurt you, as an adult, maybe you had people reject you, maybe people, maybe people just hurt your feelings, and you were, you believed lies about things that weren't true in Scripture.
Right? That's a big one. Is dysfunction will always have lie as its basis. It'll always be from a platform of that which is not true. And so a lot of this prayer counseling is just a lot of premarital counseling stuff that's wrapped up in involving the Holy Spirit in the process of showing us where there has been lie, and just asking him to remind us of what the truth is, and just to engage with God in that healing process for our emotions and so on. And because in this process, I heard a big name marriage guy once say that most of his marriage counseling that he does now is simply issues that each individual person had before they came into the marriage, but they didn't look after before they came out. Here's the thing. One more time. Here's the thing, and that is that. Sometimes some of these issues don't surface until we have a bit of prodding. You know what I mean? Like sometimes the
Excuse me.
Here, excuse you, Dan. You go. Somebody's at the door. Somebody, these situations happen, and we are prodded by the dysfunction in another person, and then our dysfunction comes up, our wounds come up, our areas where we need healing come up. And sometimes we don't find those out until later because we are absolutely sure that we're ready for the marriage covenant, right? The relationship that is Christ and the church. And but so some stuff can't be looked after until it's been brought to the surface. And so that can't be avoided. But there's a lot of stuff that can be looked into. Hi, honey. Hey, guys. Look, it's honey. I think that's part of it. A lot of that is that some stuff is just a continuing issue of what we knew that we had when we were single that we brought into the relationship.
There's so much. You find that so much of marriage counseling is back and forth. When really, if we got the stuff right with us and God, this stuff would work itself out because we would give it to the Lord. We would work on it. We would have a desire to work on it.
Follow His lead on it.
But when we're not totally submitted to God, it's going to be hard for me to submit my life, my cares to Rory, where he plays that role of Christ to the church, and for him to love me as Christ loves the church. If he's not right with God and his heart submitted to him, how is he going to love me as Christ loved the church? So if this stuff gets worked on, this stuff will work itself out because we're going to be acting the rules. We're going to be living out the rules that God's called us to.
And we'll have the intimacy with Father that He can lead us and say, hey, this isn't cool over here, or hey, great job over there. And just walk hand in hand with Him. So
hey, Lisa.
Hey, honey, it's Lisa.
It is Lisa.
But what about, did you have a question for me, Dana?
Well, what would you say?
Sorry.
What would you say would be the thing that was the biggest eye-opener for you? We could end with this and then do another video on another day. We plan to come back.
Great segue.
Wasn't that a great segue? Hey, Bev.
Hey, Bev, honey, it's Bev.
It's Bev, yeah.
Well, I think for me is that I think for me it was the thing of I was wanting, again, like you, but I was wanting things from you that, like I wanted you to have all of my mother's strong suits and none of her weaknesses. I wanted you to, and as a self-absorbed person, I wanted you to be just as absorbed with me as I was, but I wasn't prepared to share that with you. Why? Because when we're first connecting with that person, none of us are really as honest with the other person as we would like people to be. Oh, there's Dina. Hey, Dina. We're not that honest, right? Like if I had been being honest with Dana, I would have said, yes, thank you for being encouraged by the things that I portrayed to you as my spiritual walk and that which I'm aiming at going towards even more. But I want you to honestly know too, though, that I'm a pretty self-absorbed person and struggle with being selfish. I'm the youngest of the family, and I've got a certain amount of inner healing that I still need to go through. So I'll, just to give you a heads up, I want you to be absorbed with me too. But I wasn't prepared to be that honest with Dana. I don't know many people that are wanting to be that honest, but because we always want to put our best foot forward. But I think for me it was that I wasn't really realizing what I was approaching you with. I wasn't, and I didn't think that you should have anything that you're bringing to the relationship either, because I wanted you to be what I'd cast you up in my mind as being, and I didn't want you to have faults. I didn't want you to be able to lose your temper, and I didn't want you to be have any of the natural characteristics in our natural man that a human being has. And I think I want you to be more perfect than what I was willing to be. And so I think that was.
Leah.
Hey, Leah, how are you? And I think that for us, for me, that was one of the biggest things. Like, oh my goodness, like you showed you had some areas that you still were working on. And hey, what happened to the perfect you over email and over phone and visitation? Because for a short visit, anybody can be perfect, can't they?
Yeah. It's true.
But that's why we tell people.
But I was pretty good at it.
You were doing pretty swell.
I'm just
there,
kidding.
But you know what? Number one, that's such a a crotchety thing, if I could say that, because you know what? The relationship first and foremost is to be a blessing to the Lord's heart.
Yes.
So when I was making Dana about me,
To bring him
I was
glory.
robbing some of Christ's inheritance from him because I was wanting some of his inheritance for myself. And so I was hurting the Lord's heart even in that. But here's the thing, and I bring it back, close off with a reference to Dana's book. That's the book, Once Upon a Fairy Tale. You can get on Amazon. Was that the Lord is wanting to take people's relationships to the next level. He's wanting them to come back to their blueprint, one, so that he can bless it. Because he says, those that honor me, I myself will honor, he says. He wants it to return to the natural thing that he had set it up for, but he is able. So we want to leave you this encouragement. If you come to the Lord and you say, Lord, I don't think I am as you would have me be in this relationship, but I know that you love me where I'm at, but you love me too much to leave me as you found me. Lord, if you will lead me, I give in to you, the most trustworthy person I know. And will you lead me in what to lay down, what to pick up, what to carry, what to drop? And will you lead me in being Christ in the church? If the woman will say, Lord, will you lead me to be the wife you've planned in advance for me to be to my husband so that I can reflect the body with Christ? And I trust you. Then the Lord absolutely will mend what needs to be mended, and he will turn things around, and he will do things that will surprise you and leave you filled with awe and wonder. But
you have to submit, would you say this too, your will to Christ, to his will, right?
Yes.
None of this can work if we're not submitted, if we're only submitted to our flesh, because either way, you're submitted to something. If you're not submitted to God, then you're submitted to your flesh. So I encourage you to submit to God.
And it's a work in progress.
Yeah,
it's a work in progress.
It is. I'm still a work in progress. I'm not perfect by any means.
Christ doesn't demand perfection the first day, or else who would be left alive on the planet, right? But he will do it. He says that he has good plans for us, plans to give us a future and to prosper us, and that he will actually be found by us if we seek him with all of our heart. And everything that he has both created us for and redeemed us for, he will bring through, finishing the work that he started. So be encouraged. Christ will do it. He is absolutely trustworthy, and he's trustworthy with baby steps too. He doesn't begrudge baby steps. I'm just in closing, this one verse I remember reading in Scripture quite a few times, and says, if at first it is with a willing heart, it is accredited to the person according to what he does have and not what he doesn't have. So basically, he's saying if at first you're willing, then you don't have to worry about everything that you haven't reached yet or what resources you don't have. If at first it is that you are willing to do it, then the Lord will credit that to you, to your account, that you are willing, and he will step in and he will work with you on the rest. And so what a tremendous encouragement it is. So be willing. Even ask the Lord to help you to be willing, and he will turn mourning into rejoicing. He'll bring beauty out of ashes, and he will turn the whole thing around. Because you'd be surprised that beautiful flowers, for example, that will grow out of the smelliest of messes, right? So be encouraged. Jesus is not done with you yet.
Amen.
And you will be surprised what he will do for his glory, but also your good. He's worth it. And remember, awesome marriage was God's idea. So he's willing to do this thing because of his love for the people in the marriage, and so that he can display his wonders.
So we look forward to you joining us again on our next marriage video. Thanks for those of you who joined us live today, and for those of you who are watching after. Maybe you didn't catch it live, but you're able to watch it now. We pray that you would be blessed, and if you have any comments or questions, please leave them in the comment section, and we'd love to get back to you. Bless you guys. Have a great day. Woo-hoo!